Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to be telling you all of the ship lingo that you need to know, like all of the phrases and terms, and just what things are called so you understand what's happening so you're not left behind and so that you're in the know when you're on the ship. So this is going to be so helpful because I realize that in a lot of my videos I say things and then people in the comments are like, what is that? So then I have to go back and tell them what it is, but if you watch this video, you're going to know for yourself and be prepared for your voyage. And I'm not going to talk about any of the locations on the ship, and those have weird names too, like Lasting Reunion and like the Berlin restaurant and all that, because I have made another video about the ship areas, so be sure to go watch that one if you want to understand what the things on the ship are called and what areas are available for you. So watch that video after you watch this one, and if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel so I know to keep making more videos, and let's get into all of the ship lingo that you need to know for your semester at sea voyage. So the very first thing that you need to know is that it's not a boat, it's a ship. And if your voyage is anything like mine was, they're gonna cram this into your head and they're gonna tell you it's not a boat, you need to refer to it as a ship. The only boats that are present are the lifeboats, but this big thing that you're floating on is a ship. So be sure to refer to your ship as a ship, and it's gonna be really hard to remember at first, but just do your best. And then the second thing that they're gonna tell you is to call your trip not a vacation or even a trip. They want you to call it a voyage. You are on a voyage around the world, so be sure to use that term as well. Another piece of ship lingo that you're going to need to know, which you probably already do know, is that semester at sea is shortened to SAS, and everyone just calls it SAS, not SAS, but you just say the word SAS. So you'd be like, I'm on SAS. That was a horrible example. But just SAS is a way to shorten semester at sea into something that's really short. So I would say I was on SAS voyage 127, that's the number of my voyage, which you're gonna know for your voyage as well, which is really exciting. You're gonna have a number. And then the people on the ship, or the students, you call SASers, because they're on SAS. Hope this makes sense to you. Another acronym that you should know is CSU, and that stands for Colorado State University, and that is the university that SAS is based through, so be sure to know that one. Now this is where things get a little confusing. So I'm going to tell you about the directions of the ship so you can tell people where you are on the ship, and you're just going to need to know these. So if you're going to the right of the ship, that is called the starboard side, and the left side is the port side. So if you have a class in the Lasting Reunion, they're going to tell you to meet on the port side or the starboard side or something like that, and you're going to need to know the difference. So the way that I remembered it is that starboard is longer than port, and the word right is longer than the word left, and also port has 4 letters and left has 4 letters, so that's the side of the ship that port is. So starboard right and port left. And then there are also specific names for the front of the ship and the back of the ship, so you don't just say the front and the back. But if you have a meeting for, let's say, the yoga club is meeting on deck 9 forward. So instead of saying the front of deck 9, you say deck 9 forward. And the same thing is for the back of the ship, you say deck 9 aft, and that means the back of deck 9. So forward and aft mean front and back, and then the very front of the ship is called the bow, and the very back of it is called the stern. So those are just some more directional things that you should know about that are confusing, that you're gonna get confused on for the first few days. But this video will help you because you'll be ahead of the curve. Let's talk about time on semester at sea, because it's not your regular time that's on your phone right now where it's gets to noon or 12 o'clock and then starts over at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It is military time or naval time. So once it's 12 o'clock noon, then it becomes 1300, which is 1 o'clock, and then 1400, which is 2 o'clock, 2 p.m., and so on. So 1330 is 1:30 in the afternoon, and 1700 is 5 o'clock at night. I hope this makes a little bit of sense to you. If you need to know what the numbers are, you can always subtract 12 from the number that you're looking at. So if you have the number 14 and you subtract 12 from it, you get 2. So that means that 1400 is 2 p.m. So this was so hard for me to understand at first, and you're going to want to change your phone so it reads these times as well, because all of the things, all of your classes and all of the meal times are going to be posted in these times. You're going to get used to it, but it's going to be hard. So just change your phone to military time, and you can do that in settings, and best of luck to you understanding all of these times. I think that the hardest one to know the difference between was like 1500 and 1700, because 1500 is 3 p.m. and 1700 is 5 p.m. So I always thought that like 1700 was 7 p.m. at night, because that's like when dinner was starting. I don't know, it was really hard for me to understand at first, but I hope you do better than I did. Okay, let's move on from time to something that's a little bit easier. So these are terms that are referring to like Wi-Fi on the ship or like the internet situation, and I've made a whole video on that if you want to know more about it, but let's just go over some terms really quickly. So the intranet is what the ship calls their Wi-Fi that's free. It's not Wi-Fi that will let you do things like go on Instagram or Google things, but the intranet is something you can use to check your seamail or check homeport, which are both terms that I should explain right now too. Okay, so seamail is the email that is specific to Semester at Sea. So it's not like a Gmail account, but you get a new email when you are accepted into Semester at Sea, and that email works without Wi-Fi, so it works with the ship's intranet. And this seamail is what you can use to communicate with your friends and family that are at home, and they can send you a few photos. You can send a few photos back as well, but not that many because it is slow and does not work that well. So don't send all of your photos over your seamail. Wait to see the people at home in person to show them all your photos, but you can probably send a few, and it's just great to communicate with like your parents or your grandparents. Like my grandparents emailed me all the time, and that was really sweet. So seamail is something you for sure need to know about. Okay, and the other term that I just mentioned is homeport, which is something that works with the ship's intranet, and it basically is like the schedule for the day. So every day at noon-ish it changes, and it tells you all the clubs that are meeting, all the events that are happening at night. It tells you the weather, it tells you the UV index. It has little like fun like rumor things at the bottom. There's a ton of stuff on homeport, so it's basically like your updated schedule for every day. And one more Wi-Fi term that I think is important is quick check. And this is something that you can use on your phone, and it allows you to have 7 minutes of like usable Wi-Fi that you can use for Instagram and stuff, and it doesn't count as your 50 megabytes that you get per day. So quick check is something that lasts for literally 7 minutes. You can check the weather, you can check whatever, but then it runs out after 7 minutes and then it refreshes the next day, and that is something you can use in addition to the 50 megabytes of Wi-Fi or data that you get per day with Semester at Sea. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about with Wi-Fi in general, so if you want to know more about it, be sure to check out my Wi-Fi video, again, because there's just way too much to explain right now, but those are a few terms about Wi-Fi that I thought were useful for this video. Okay, so now let's move on to some terms about like traveling in a country, okay? So the phrase that people use to talk about being in a country is saying in country. You don't say like in the country or in a country. You say in country, like we're gonna be in country in 3 days. And it's the same thing for saying like in port. In port means that you're docked and you're not just sailing around. So in port and in country are two phrases that you're gonna use a ton, and they're really important to know. Another term that is used frequently on the ship is called pre-port, and you have a pre-port meeting before every time you get to a new country for an hour or two, where they tell you all of the rules for this country, all the things you should know. They tell you the weather, they tell you where the city center is, they tell you if you can get taxis, they tell you about health concerns, they tell you everything at pre-port. So pre-port is super important and it's mandatory, so you always have to go to that. And then another piece of ship lingo is called the green sheet, and this is something that you get at pre-port. So on the green sheet you have a list of all of the emergency numbers for that country. You have the list of the RDs that are going to be on duty and the dean's phone number, and again like numbers for taxis and directions back to the ship and all of that. So the green sheet is something that you get at pre-port, and I always kept my green sheet folded up in my wallet, so I had it when I was in country and I was always prepared in case something went wrong. Something else that is going to be on your green sheet is the on-ship time. So on-ship time is pretty self-explanatory if you think about that term. That is the time you have to be back on the ship before it leaves for the next country. So on-ship time is usually like 4 p.m. and then the ship actually pulls away from the dock at 6 p.m. So you have to be back by on-ship time, and every 15 minutes that you're late, so if you get back at 4:15, that means that you have dock time. So dock time is a penalty for being late back to the ship, or just a penalty in general that they can give you for having bad behavior on the ship or something. But every 15 minutes that you're late coming back to the ship for on-ship time, gives you an hour of dock time. So this means that you have to stay on the ship an hour later than everyone else when you get to the next country. So if everyone else gets to get off at like 8 a.m., you have to wait till 9 a.m. So your friends are gonna be upset because they have to wait for you, or you might just get left behind, which is also too bad. So be sure to be back at on-ship time so you don't get dock time. The next piece of ship lingo that you should be aware of is called a field class. So all of your classes that you sign up for through semester at sea, except for global studies, because global studies is like a lecture course, but the other 3 courses that you sign up for are going to have field classes. And a field class means that one day in one country that you're going to be with your professor and with your classmates traveling around doing some sort of planned activity and then writing a reflection about it afterwards. And this one day counts for about 20% of your grade, so it's mandatory and you have to be there and you cannot make other travel plans that day. But field classes are usually really fun. Like I had one that was a city tour and we got free lunch as well, so that was awesome. So field classes, you have to do them and they're pretty fun. So that is just another term for you to know. And if you want to know more about the classes on Semester at Sea, be sure to check out my video on that because I talk about all the class stuff that you need to know and about how hard like exams are, just everything you need to know about classes. So be sure to watch that video as well. Okay, and now a term that is near and dear to my heart is snack time. So snack time is something that I did not know about when I first got on the ship. But you have your regular meal times throughout the day, and then you have snack time at night. So snack time happens at 10 p.m. in the Lido restaurant, and they put out desserts and sandwiches and like juices, and it's always a fun thing to go up to snack time and get desserts and then hang out with your friends and play games and meet new friends. And the next term on my list is Sea Olympics. So Sea Olympics is an event that happens one day per voyage, and you compete with your team or your sea against the other seas, and then whoever wins gets a huge prize. And there's lots of fun events like tug of war, and my voyage had a food eating contest and people played like dodgeball. There's tons of fun events on Sea Olympics Day, and it's one of the best days on the voyage. And then another term that I briefly mentioned while talking about Sea Olympics are seas, and everyone on the ship is split into different seas, like 6 of them I think. So then that is your like home base for the ship. You do a lot of orientation stuff with your sea. So I was in the Red Sea, other people were in like the Yellow Sea or the Bering Sea or whatnot. And then also that is the team that you compete with for Sea Olympics. Another piece of ship lingo that you should be aware of is Neptune Day. And Neptune Day is another really fun day on the ship where you don't have classes, but you wake up early and you jump in the pool and you like kiss a fish and you kiss Poseidon's ring, and then you change from a pollywog to a shellback. So that is just a way of saying that you've become a veteran sailor and you're no longer a newbie. So a pollywog is like a newbie to the sea, and a shellback is like an expert sailor. So that's what happens on Neptune Day. It's a really fun day full of celebrations and just relaxing by the pool and having fun with your friends. And then one more ship tradition that you should be aware of, or piece of ship lingo, is the alumni ball. And this happens at the very end of the voyage. And this is also really fun. You dress up with your friends, you get fancy dinner, and then you dance the night away on deck 9. So be sure to check out my video on ship traditions to hear more about Sea Olympics, Neptune Day, and the Alumni Ball, and my recommendations for packing things for those days and whatnot. Okay, and another piece of ship lingo that you should know is ship kids. So ship kids are the children of professors or staff on the voyage, and there's usually like 20 or so on the voyage, and they can be really young, like literally babies, or they can be up to like 17, 16, and it's fun to get to know the ship kids. You can work with the ship kids as a job if you sign up for a job on Semester at Sea, and that's really fun too. And the ship kids are always just so sweet and have a great time and love swimming in the pool and hanging out with older kids. And then another group of people on the ship that is in a different age group for sure are their lifelong learners. So lifelong learners are older people. Sometimes they come with their husbands or wives, or sometimes they come alone and they stay on the ship and they take classes, and they're just there to have a good time and learn and travel. And they're always super sweet, and they can always give you advice for like your life, like life advice from lifelong learners is really good advice most of the time. So get to know them as well. They're always so kind and so sweet. And then another term that you should know for your voyage are interport lecturers. So every night at 7 p.m., or at 1900, they have interport lecturers or a staff member do a lecture in the lasting reunion, which is always really fun to watch and really informational, and I loved going to them. But interport lecturers are people who come on the ship specifically to be lecturers. So on my voyage we had a guy who talked about politics, and then we also had some authors, and it's just really fun to hear their stories, and they come on for just like a small part of the voyage, like a week or so between ports. So like from Ecuador to Costa Rica we had one, and that's why they're called interport lecturers, because they're just on the ship for a short amount of time. And then, of course, another term you should know is the crew, and these are the people who will be making sure that the ship runs smoothly, and they deserve all of your appreciation. And then also you have a cabin steward who is part of the crew, but this is the person that comes to your cabin and makes your bed and takes out your trash and cleans it. So always be super nice to this person as well. My cabin steward was named Alvin, and he was super sweet and so accommodating and always helped us out. So be sure to get to know your cabin steward and the crew and thank them all the time. And that is it for this video. I hope that you understand a little bit more about semester at sea and all of the terms that you need to know. There's quite a few of them. It's sort of an extensive list, but it's really good to know all of these terms. You're gonna do great on your voyage because you watched this video. So if you liked it, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.